What's good, y'all? In today's video, we continue our Hippopotamus Defense series. I don't even know what video we're on at this point. I'll have to go check that, but yeah, let's keep it moving. So guys, in this Hippo video, we're going to be talking about middle game strategy and really middle game tactical shots that you as a Hippo player can get all the time if you know what to do. And it really comes down to those Hippopotamus Defense bishops. The bishops, fianchettoed for black on G7 and B7, or if you're playing as white, G2 and B2, can take a hanging piece much of the time. So those bishops can just fly in, take a knight, take a rook. They can damage pawn structure. And as we're going to see in this video, they can remove a defender for a central pawn. And this middle game idea I have gotten multiple times. There was a game against a GM, in which case the GM ended up dropping the center in a blitz game with the idea that we're going to be covering today. So really, guys, there's a few different things we're going to be looking at in this video coming out of the Hippo. So make sure you watch till the end. With D4, I'm going up against a 2500 here. I go with 1, 2, and 3. That's what I've landed on in terms of playing the Hippo. There are other ways of doing it. I believe Grandmaster Eric Hansen goes with B6. Simon Williams also goes with B6, as far as I know. But I personally like starting with the king side, because I feel like if by the off chance I'm not able to get my full Hippo, I would rather be in a modern defense. I feel like there's a lot more flexibility there. You got the pterodactyl, you got a bunch of different things. Whereas if you're in the Owens, it's a little bit less flexible in my mind. But anyways, let me know down below in the comment section what you think of that, how you like to start the Hippo off. But okay, I mean, we play E6, we play H6, I tuck the knight here, and then here with castle and kingside, I play knight D7, the next move. Now, I will say, white did fianchetto fast, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to get a Hippo. Usually, in my games at least, when I'm playing a Hippo and my opponent fianchettos, at some point, they block the bishop with a pawn or a knight, which is all we need. If they don't, if they refuse to, let's say white goes with E3 and knight E2 or something, then okay, I mean, there's multiple options, including not fianchettoing, so we kind of have a pseudo Hippo, half Hippo going on. Or eventually we play rook B8, and then we offer a trade of bishops, which, yes, is weakening to our light squares if white ends up accepting that trade. At the same time, it weakens our light squares too. So, you know, both sides get weaknesses out of that. But okay, I mean, at this point, guys, we're just going to continue with our Hippo on the king side. And as you saw in the game here, knight F3, and here castle and king side. Now, here I could actually go for the move of B6, right? I didn't go for that. This is playable, though. Of course, the big concern is, okay, what about this bishop that's looking all the way down to the rook? I mean, if the knight wants to make a quiet move in order to threaten the rook, then, okay, if my knight was already on D7, I could play rook B8 and then go for bishop B7 soon. Since it's not, this knight is on B8, okay, fine. We can either develop or play C6. I'm a little bit more comfortable with pawn up to C6 there. And if something like E4, bishop A6, right? Good move. That puts pressure on C4 in a good way. If B3, we can play C5. Guys, this pawn cannot push or capture because the knight on C3 would fall right off the board. And if E5, this bishop looking to activate, okay, now we develop. And very sharp position here, but I do like black's chances here. We got a lot of pressure against D4, right? Both directly and indirectly as well. I mean, our queen and our bishop are aimed towards that direction. And we got a lot of good pressure against E5 as well. So I like our chances here. I like our game. And I will say, like, sometimes there are lines that can come out where you give up the rook, but you're okay, because you get a very active queen along the diagonal. I've seen that in a variety of different openings. Maybe not so much the Hippo up until this point, because this, you know, this kind of dynamic's not super common. But okay, you could see that. What I see the most often is like something here like knight E5. And if you do see this move, okay, I see this quite a bit. I don't know about y'all. You'll have to let me know. But oftentimes this becomes a very interesting decision, particularly when our knight's on D7, right? Do I run away with the rook, or do I take this knight? Or in this case, do I take the knight, or do I play C6? This is an example of it being okay for white to take in the corner. And of course, we don't have that queen takes A8 right now. But in this current moment, we're down the exchange, but we do get a pawn out of it, and we're attacking this knight. And basically what we're going to try to do is trap this bishop. That's the plan. We're going to look to trap this bishop. There's a bunch of things white could do. Let's say they go with the engine move. We can play c6, and if the knight wants to take on a7, they can do that. We can play bishop a6, really developing and often, just getting this queen a little bit more active. If queen a4, white here is desperately trying to put enough pressure on c6 so that this bishop can get out, but okay, we play queen to d7, and now the knight is stuck. White has 3 attackers, we have 3 defenders. So white taking on c6 isn't going to win them material. It might be the best thing they have because they're trying to get something for that knight, but yeah, it's not great for white at all. In fact, we're completely crushing as black. Of course, we don't want to take with our undeveloped knight, unlike usual, because of the fact that the bishop would fall. So we take with the e knight. Let's say we see bishop takes c6. Again, we don't want to drop our bishop on a6, so we take with the queen. We have capturing back. This is the type of position that you want to go for. Your opponent has a rook and a pawn. You have 2 minor pieces, which gives black a completely winning game. Now, here I ended up going with knight d7. I often like to just literally do everything I can with the hippo until pushing with b6. That's a good way of going about it. White did play e4, so they blocked their bishop twice, which really makes it so that b6 is not anything to worry about. That said, let's just say white played rook e1. We could play b6. That's fine. That's a good move. If knight e5 at this point, okay, by the way, real quick, let's just say knight h4. Okay, we move the rook. Big deal. Okay, and we could offer a trade soon. We're just playing chess, and this knight is not doing much in terms of putting good pressure on us. And if the knight does go to e5, this seems a little bit more scary. But okay, rook b8, this is about even, maybe a slight advantage to white if they end up running back. Knight c6 as well. I've had this kind of thing happen before, where we have capturing off and then we have a fianchettoed rook, which is obviously not ideal, but at the same time, it's like, what does white have here? They gave up their bishop right in front of their king. They have weaknesses. We have weaknesses. It's going to be hard for either side to take great advantage of these because both of the light squared bishops are off the board. But okay, these positions feel pretty drawish to me if you run with the rook. Now, if you go, you know what, I'm going to take this knight, things can get very dicey. And here, that's the best move by far. Black is clearly better according to Stockfish. With bishop takes a8, we are going to take on d4. Let's say, the knight runs to a4. If the knight runs to b1, if the knight runs to b5, engine move against any of those. We have c6 going, you know what, I'm going to keep this bishop in the corner, keep that bishop stuck. And yeah, these are very interesting scenarios. Let's say knight takes a7, knight e5, good move. Really looking to put double protection on c6, and if f4 attacking our knight, we can go, you know what, take it, it's fine. We are going to take this bishop. If we lose our knight, okay, we take the bishop. Now the knight is trapped. If the queen tries to help out, knight c8, and this knight is pinned to the queen. So yeah, just some kind of side ideas there in terms of stuff that you could see. All that said, that's not even the main thing that we're covering in this video. In the game again, white played e4, so when we do play b6, we're not worried about knight g5, right? Not right now, as the e-pawn blocks the bishop. And okay, in the game we have queen d2. Be careful, guys. In general, you don't want to push this g-pawn unless it comes with tempo, because if you do push the g-pawn, this doesn't apply to the b-pawn because the b-pawn's on the queen side. But if you push the g-pawn now without tempo, meaning that we don't have time to tuck our knight, then white gets h4 in. So much pressure against this guy. If we take, the knight captures back. h6 is very loose. If we push, knight h2. If we defend it, f3 can be played. And the best thing we can do is take. Even after that, white is clearly better. I'd say white's winning here. If we try to defend it, then white can take on f5 and then very calmly and quietly take on g4. And, we might want to take back, but if we do that, then we just straight up drop our rook in the corner of the board, and it's not like before where we got a knight and a central pawn out of it. So yeah, not good news. So in this case, fine, king h7, that's what we're going to go with. And okay, in the game here we have rook fe1, bishop b7, rook a d1, and now rook to b8. Guys, this is very important. When you are playing the Hippo and your opponent does fianchetto their bishop, make sure that you defend yours with a rook. That's what I go with. This really eases so many tactical worries that we have, and a lot of the stuff that white has just goes out the window because we play the move of rook to b8. Okay, because we play that move, right? For example, okay, let's just say here that we play. Well, let's start with f5. Let's say we play f5. White's winning now. Now, in general, this is a good plan. You see the 3-pawn center here, kind of an Auerbach setup. Attack the central / outside pawn. And if white takes, we'll often look to the sides of that pawn. There's no black pawn. Okay, we'll take with the knight. But now here's the problem. Knight g5 with check. You got to take the knight, or else the knight's going to fly in. And once you do, then this bishop flies in, and okay, our light squares are weak. Whites aren't. They still have this bishop, and not to mention that g5 is horrendous. So that's not good. If we play g5, I mean, look, there's plenty of things white could do. Again, h4 is probably what I would recommend, but e5 as well. I mean, with the e5, let's say we take this. Usually this would be a good situation for us, but guess what? Knight takes g5 and the bishop falls. So again, when you are playing in the Hippo against a fianchettoed bishop, make sure you don't need to worry about defending this one because there's no bishop eyeing it up, but you don't want tactical ideas to happen along this diagonal. So just defend your bishop. Now you're fine. Now if anything does happen, if white throws in a check or something, okay, we just take, and then our bishop's guarded. So remember that. It might seem like a small detail, but it really can save you a lot of games. h4, okay, was played in this game by white, and I now play the move of f5. White ended up capturing. In general, in the Hippo, when you push a flank pawn and they capture, look to the sides. Is there a black pawn to the side? No? Okay, take with the knight. Right, take with the knight. And that is specifically really when you're looking towards the center. Okay, sometimes you see a pawn on g5 and you take with the knight anyways, but I would say it's very rare. If you have a pawn on e5 here as black, almost every time, guys, you're going to take with the pawn. Okay, rule of thumb there. But in this case, okay, there's nothing to the side, so knight takes, f5 is easy. And okay, I mean, what are some things that we could see here in the game? Bishop f4 was played. That's a blunder. Okay, and that's really the tactical shot that I want you guys to start thinking about in your Hippo games. When you see a quiet little move like that, it looks strong, and I've had, I mean, look, very strong. I mean, a GM play this kind of idea against me, but it's just not, it's not going to work. That said, what could white do? If we see knight h2 offering a trade of bishops, okay, we trade. That's fine. Queen e7, we develop. We're doing just fine here. If white pushes with d5, okay, there are moments where when we have 2 pawns in the center and our opponent only has 1 in the center, where we don't push to e5 because of the fact that our opponent has e4 as an outpost for their knight, right? I would say in this case, though, we're okay. It's not like this bishop is on c2 or something aimed towards our king, and okay, we can take space on the queen side. It's not like white has started trying to maul us over here. And if we do see something like b3, then we can calmly drop our bishop back to c8, and we're just playing chess. I mean, knight f6 is an idea, knight c5 is an idea. Pretty even game here. But bishop f4 was played in the game. The moment you see this move, guys, think about the fact that d4 has 1 less protector. Now, it might not seem to matter at first sight, because it's like, okay, we have 2 attackers on it. White has 3 defenders. So even if we removed a defender, right, by that logic, it wouldn't matter. They'd still have 2 defenders, which we need an extra attacker, except for the fact that this queen is leading the way, which is almost always how it happens, right? It's very rare that you're going to play the Hippo and your opponent has a rook on d2 and a queen on d1. So in this case, guys, we're not taking here, right? That wouldn't work. That's not going to work at all. We're going to fly our bishop in and remove the defender on f3. Now we can take on d4. Yeah, technically if white takes and takes and takes, they'll be the last one to capture, but in the midst of all that, they would have to give up their queen. That's exactly what happened in the game here. Now black is on the brink of winning, threatening knight takes f3. Bishop g2, I now played the move of knight to e5. I mean, whole idea being I'm threatening either knight to f3 with a monster fork there. If white did take on d4, knight f3 with check, and the queen would fall. We could play e5. Let's just say white takes with the rook. Okay, we take. We're okay with this. In this position here, it's even material technically, but then we take off this bishop. So that's losing for white. Let's say we see b3. White going, okay, you were looking at that pawn, I'm going to defend it. Again, we can throw a knight into f3 there, and the queen's going to fall. And if the king runs away, then we still have a fork. We're not going to win the queen, but we will win the exchange there. Even if you take, we have a knight ready to capture back. So in the game, here white plays rook to e3, looking to stop this knight f3 idea, and they did. That's true. But knight takes c4, and here white resigned. And it all started, guys, in this position here. I'm telling you guys, keep an eye on this. It happens all the time. White has so much protection on this pawn that they're thinking, okay, I can leave that pawn behind a little bit. I got plenty of defenders on it. And here white is putting pressure all the way down on e6. You don't have to play defensive chess in this kind of position. Remove the knight, take on d4 with your knight, not your bishop, because this knight protects e6 and threatens a fork. And at this point, the engine here likes e5. It also likes knight e5 as well. Kind of funny, it calls this move brilliant while also saying it's not the best move. That's interesting, but okay. Rook e3, and then the game ended up wrapping up there. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and a quick reminder for that the rest of this month I'm giving out a 30% off discount code for all of my online courses, every single one that was privately published. I'm talking about the Hippopotamus Defense, Czech PIRC, Mastering Chess Endgames, Ponziani, Knight C3, Modern Scandi, and the aggressive E4 Repertoire. Okay, all those courses are available for 30% off if you plug in the discount code of March 2026. Good? For the rest of March of 2026. I'll see you guys. I wanted to finish this video out by giving a special thanks to Walter, Rob, Roger, Ray, and Jerry, and the rest of my Patreon community. Thank you guys for making this video possible. If you're interested in joining the Patreon family, hey, I'd love to see you over there. There's some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you over there. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.